Is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. And I was a good student. I understand things. I comprehend very well. Okay? Better than, I think, almost anybody.
It was the boast that lit up the internet and then became the one thing he could not outrun. The setup felt like classic Trump. Standing before a roaring crowd in Ohio, the former president leaned over the podium, let the cheers build, and started rewriting his own legend in real time. With arena lights beating down and supporters hanging on every word, he puffed out his chest and declared that people say he is not smart, but he went to Wharton, and not only did he go, he was at the very top, number one, the kind of student professors came to for advice. The crowd loved it. The applause rolled through the room like thunder. Online, the reaction was very different. Some laughed, some argued, and some instantly began picking the claim apart. But miles away in New York, inside the Ed Sullivan Theater, Stephen Colbert was not just reacting. He was preparing. And when the late show began that night, the energy in the room felt off in the best possible way. There was no playful entrance, no light warm-up, no little dance to loosen up the audience. Colbert walked straight to the desk carrying a thick leather-bound book, set it down with deliberate care, and looked into the camera like he already knew where this was going. "Welcome back," he said, calm and measured.
"And it's gonna be great. Do not be alarmed that the forest has begun to reclaim the White House. And I know there's no one in this tiny room but me and the cameraman right there, but we made sure to crank up this giant mic that covers my waddle. Now, okay."
Apparently, we learned something amazing yesterday. According to Donald Trump, he was not just a student at Wharton. He was the student, number one. The audience laughed, but Colbert barely smiled. He simply tapped the cover of the book and said that when someone makes a claim that big, you would expect it to be written down somewhere official, somewhere permanent, somewhere that cannot be shouted over at a rally. Then he opened the book. The room started to lean in. Colbert turned the pages slowly, almost painfully slowly, stretching the moment until every eye was fixed on that desk. He scanned one page and said, "Top honors, not here." He turned another and said, "Highest distinction, still not here." Another page, another beat, another grin growing on his face. "Academic recognition," he said, and again, nothing. By now the audience was already laughing, but softly, the kind of laughter people make when they know the real hit is still coming. Then Colbert stopped. He looked down at one page, froze for half a second, and looked back up with the exact expression that told everyone the trap had finally snapped shut. "But wait," he said. We kept going. He reached into the back of the book and pulled out a single loose sheet of paper, yellowed just enough to look dangerous. Suddenly, the studio went quiet. The camera zoomed in tighter. Even Colbert's posture changed. "Because if you are going to say you were number one," he said, "you better hope nobody finds the page that says otherwise." The audience let out a low, nervous laugh. Colbert looked down at the paper, paused, then looked back at the lens. He checked it again, dragging the silence until it almost hurt. According to this dramatized ranking, he said carefully, Donald Trump was not number one. Another pause. He was near the very bottom. The audience exploded. Not a polite late-night laugh, not even a quick burst of applause, but a full roar of shock and delight crashing together all at once. Colbert held the paper in the air like a prize and shouted over the noise that it was a long way from best student in the room to technically still in the room. That sent the crowd over the edge. People were clapping, shouting, rising out of their seats, and Colbert knew he had them. But he still was not done. He adjusted his glasses, glanced back down, and said there was even a note.
"Whatever he's on, I'd like some, Daddy wants speech candy." I'm not sure what the emergency was here other than his poll numbers, because he just played the old hits.
The audience started laughing before he finished the sentence. Apparently, our so-called genius was not remembered for brilliance, but for making sure he always had the best seat in the room. That line hit like a hammer. The laughter turned into the kind of applause that stops a show in its tracks. Then Colbert slowly closed the book and let the thud land. He looked straight into the camera and delivered the final shot with perfect control. "Mr. Trump, you were not at the top of the class. You were barely in the conversation, and tonight the conversation caught up with you." Then he pushed the book aside and said, "Class dismissed." That was the moment. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. The boast that was meant to sound powerful suddenly sounded desperate. The image he had tried to build cracked open on national television, and the loudest thing in the room was no longer the claim itself, but the audience reaction when the myth fell apart. Because sometimes the downfall does not come from an enemy. Sometimes it comes from one page, one pause, and one host who knows exactly when to let the silence do the damage. And the room felt every second.